Hello and welcome. This is my stretch project. What types of learners benefit from a traditional learning environment versus a virtual learning environment? I separated the two groups into strictly a classroom and strictly an online environment while I was doing research to better clarify the differences between them. So here we go. We'll start with the types of learners. I had known about auditory, visual, and kinesthetic learners. I did not know that interpersonal learners was grouped into this category. But these are the four basic types of learners that are widespread across many, many sources and many, many people. As you look more and more, we'll see that everybody has their own opinion and their own definitions. There are more and more types of learners, the more sources you see. I had 15 sources, so I saw a lot of people who had their own opinions, and some had even more than seven. But for the purposes of my research, I stuck with these four right here. It turns out it didn't matter in the end, but we'll get into why as we go through. So, my question can really be broken down into these two topics. What's the best way to reach each student? We'll go through that first. Since we're looking at which type of learner compared to how do we deliver that, we're really looking at each individual student. And what's the process look like? Once we figure out how to best teach that student, we want to figure out how to apply it. We don't want to learn something new and then just disregard it completely when it could affect our job and the success of our students. So, I really like teaching. I want to keep my job. I want to do it inside the classroom as long as possible. I'm really passionate about interacting with people on a personal basis, a social basis. So, can I do that as long as possible? Or in the future, will I have to be a digital classroom teacher? The number of online classes is really increasing over time because of availability and convenience. So, what does the future hold for me as an educator? I've talked about where I've started. I'm going to give you a piece of shocking news in a moment. During my research, we'll talk about some studies, and then we'll talk about what to do with what we now know. This was the most groundbreaking piece that I read during this project and that I saw. There is no evidence to show that matching a preferred learning style with a learner increases results. Wow. So we as teachers say, okay, this student learns this way, I'll show them this way. But there is no research that says that that is true. There is research that says showing students multiple different learning styles on the same topic increases their results, but that is just showing them multiple times different ways, and eventually it will click from the sheer spread. So that was amazing to me. Here are some studies. 70% of students in this study did not match a preferred learning style while studying. It's important to note that these students were not told which learning style to use while studying. There was no significant difference to the other 30% of students. So these students were on par with their preferred learning style. They did not do better than the other students. This study, awesome. Motivation is a big factor in success. Not a surprise to us as teachers. However, it's important to know that motivation plays a huge factor in how students do. This term was new to me, blended learning environment. A blended learning environment is a mix of classroom and digital learning. In this study, the online learners felt less support and they felt like they were doing more work than the blended classroom environment. I just really want to drive this into the ground. Matching a learning environment is not supported. So I learned all this, And I remembered Howard Gardner. Howard Gardner has his multiple intelligence theories. So why does this conflict with this? Is my next question that I asked. Okay. So Howard Gardner argues this. A learning style is not the same as an intelligence. A learning style is not the same as an intelligence. So he says a learning style is an approach, and an intelligence is what you are good at. Okay, so the learning style is the approach you take. He says that someone who is very intelligent in a specific area will be able to show something in that area in many different ways. So many different learning styles can be shown on a specific topic. And if you have an expert in that field, they can use many different learning styles. So what do we do now? We have some new information. It completely conflicts our old stuff. The short answer is we already know, and the frameworks have done it for us. People get paid a lot of money and have spent their life studying how the brain works. And those people are paired with people who are experts in their field. For example, I teach high school chemistry. A psychologist has paired with a high school, or has paired with a expert in chemistry to figure out the best way to teach a topic in chemistry. They have defined this by the verbs in the frameworks, and I, as a teacher, am supposed to interpret that and match the best learning style according to the verbs in the standards. And that is the best way to teach each topic. So here's how it really breaks it down. Okay. There is a best way to teach something. We just have to find it using the standards. For example, something I would not do is if I was going to teach someone how to ride a bike, I would not say, here, read this book on riding bikes. Okay. So there's a best way to teach each thing, and it does not necessarily match a learning style, or it doesn't match a learning style of an individual. It matches the learning style of a standard. Okay, we're in the 21st century. Here's the main differences. So traditional classroom environment, you get feedback. It kind of sucks on time. Online learning, you have a lot of resources. It's cheaper, and a lot of knowledge access available. Disadvantages: you don't get a lot of feedback, and you don't feel as supportive. Not everybody is comfortable with it as well. Time is the biggest factor, I think, in making this choice. This is the 21st century. If I needed to get a degree and I'm a single parent at home raising 3 kids, I don't have time to go to a class. So online classes would be for me in this scenario. This is the answer to my question. The 2 biggest factors in effectiveness of teaching and learning. Materials taught in the most effective way, according to the standards and figured out by the teacher, and students are motivated. If these 2 things are true, then you have the highest probability of a successful student. Okay, so here's the conclusion. Solution C, not the classroom, not the online, but the blended learning environment. It is important to note that this blended learning environment contains a teacher that is there part of the time, giving feedback, supporting, and checking in constantly. So the blended learning environment, no matter what learning style a student may have.